creativity is a big word. It's a big picture thing, but there's a lot of ambiguity in creativity. So I try not to necessarily tell them you have to be creative. I mean, you are a creative, the noun, but it's not about being creative as in the adjective. It's about developing something that's compelling, something that engages the reader, the viewer, the listener, something that compels the reader, viewer, and listener to pay attention to their ad, to act or react to then, and then does it elicit a response? Does it elicit an action? Does it elicit a reaction? So creativity in and of itself, I think, is fine, but that is art. And advertising, while it can be artful, is not just about developing art, because at the end of the day, we are still in the game of convincing people to buy one brand over another. And while the message can have creativity that helps bring it to life, the thing is, at the end of the day, the message has to be compelling, has to be relevant to the person who's going to be engaging with the message. So creativity is just one aspect, but it has to go beyond that. It has to get to a point where it talks to the person who is going to engage with that message. That's the key thing that we try to always instill. Because if the message gets lost in the creativity, then again, it just becomes art, and it loses its focus and it loses its direction, and there's a lot of time, effort, and money that goes into it. So it's that investment will be lost. And not to sound rather either pedantic about it, but art is great and creativity is great in art. So when we want to find creativity, we go to a museum and we find art. But advertising is art that finds the consumer. But once again, the creativity cannot get ahead of the message. The message always has to be front and center, and it has to be compelling. It has to give the reason for the person to engage with that message. So that's why it's key when we teach creativity, or as I say, creativity, that don't just get hung up on the word creative. Focus on the word compelling, because compelling has more action. It's more forward thinking. It has more movement. Creativity is passive and stops. So it has to be, and that's why I like using present participles. It has to be engaging. It has to be compelling, because if it's engaging, it means it engages with someone. If it's compelling, it compels someone to do something or think about something, or it compels them to react or act, rather than just saying it's creative by saying that's a nice piece of art, and then you move on and then it's gone. That art may be gone. Maybe it doesn't leave you a message, or you're trying to find the message. No, advertising gives you the message. Don't let the message get lost in your creativity. So that's why I try, when we talk about advertising, is that yes, creative is great, but don't get too hung up on it where it overtakes the message. That was a long-winded answer, but well, that's three. If you have a 3-year program, I suppose you're going to be saying the same thing over and over again. But anyways, that's it in a fairly big nutshell. So creativity is great, but remember, compelling, engaging.